Hey y'all, welcome back to the African Mavericks podcast. I'm your host, Adedokun. Before we get into this episode, guys, check this out. I can finally put my locks in a bun. Like, man bun activated. Like, I can't tell you guys how much excited I am about this, because this is 4 years in the making. Like 4 years in the making. When I started this journey, oh my god, you need to see what my hair looked like. If you know what rat chop looks like, have you heard the term rat chop? That's what my hair looked like. And I thugged it out, and now look at where we are. And this whole experience made me by the way, this is day 2 of being able to put my hair in a bun, so I'm still excited. I'm still riding high on that energy, and put it that way. But it's also made me think about this concept of delayed gratification, and it's making me have this newfound appreciation for that concept. Like 4 years ago, when I started this journey, the people closest to me knew that this was what I wanted to do with my hair, but I couldn't then. But I thugged it out. I didn't take any shortcuts, and it just made me think about like this platform, what we're building over here, and 4 years down the line, what a man bun is going to look like for the African Mavericks platform. And I'm encouraged to keep going. So yeah, to you listening, I hope this serves as some form of motivation for you to keep going whenever you feel lost and demoralized or whatever it is. Just remember my man bun. And hope that gives you the courage and the energy and the motivation you need to keep going. Yeah, so that said, let's dive right into today's episode. I had the privilege of chatting with Adedokun Agunbiade. Ade for short is a true jack of all trades, with a unique journey from accounting to software development. In our conversation, we dove deep into his transition from CFO, a corporate CFO with a 9-to-5, to an entrepreneur, the challenges he faced, and his innovative spirit that led him to co-found a startup or a tech platform that is revolutionizing business operations in Nigeria and eventually Africa at large. His story is one of resilience, continuous learning, and staying true to one's vision despite the odds. Ade's insights on independent thinking and the evolving role of technology in our lives is not to be missed. So stick around as we learn from Ade's story. Let's dive right in.
All right. So Ade, again, thank you for having this conversation. Agreed to have this conversation with me. I'm sure you're going to have some interesting things to tell us about your story and some lessons that we can learn from it. How I like to start, I don't know if you're into mindfulness practices. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, kind of, yes.
Okay, so if you would indulge me, I like to start this conversation by us taking, because I know there was a lot happening before you hopped on the call. So I like us to start by, just taking 3 deep breaths. And while you do that, just set an intention for how you want the conversation to go. Then we'll kick in. Is that cool with you?
That works.
Again, thank you. I really appreciate your time. I know you could be doing anything else, but you're here with us. So I would like to start by you just asking you to share, a bit about your background and maybe some key moments or key pivotal moments that led to where you are today.
Okay, so basically, I like to call myself a jack of all trades. I like to do so many things, right? I'm not the okay. I have one thing I know how to do, and I just stick to that thing and just move on with that stuff, right? So I started off as an accountant, right?
Okay.
That's what I studied in the university. Finished in 2012. Then after then I practiced accounting for what like 8 to 9 years, right? Doing so many industries because I like to gather knowledge from so many places. I did a bit of fashion. I did that was accounting in fashion. I did a bit of telecoms, right? Mostly telecoms infrastructure. Um, I was an accountant at a telecoms infrastructure company. I was actually CFO. That was my past job before starting Rope. I was CFO of Google Host. I don't know if you know Google Host.
Yes, I do know Google's.
Yeah, the Shells team, that's the domain and Shells team company. So I was CFO. I was actually the first CFO of Google Host. Google Host. I did that for about 3 years. Before the idea of Rope came up, I met my co-founders. Then we decided that okay, let me just give a bit of background, right? Now, while at Google Host, I built a small internal tool, right? Because I write code also. I'm a full stack developer alongside. So I built a small tool then that helped us cut down reconciliation time by a lot, right? So instead of spending 2 weeks, 3 weeks or a week doing reconciliation, it cut it down to like 30 minutes. So I used a bit of machine learning, pandas, numpys to figure out where transactions are coming from, then match them with what we have in our own database. Then it just gives us the ones that are not found, basically. So at that time it was my first major project, right? Then the idea of okay, why not build a software that can help businesses run their payroll? Now, payroll can be complicated, right? Because there are lots of things that go into it. So I met my co-founders, Abifolu and Jifa. So we decided to start off Rope. We started Rope in 2021, right? We started Rope in 2021. Now, at that time, it was my first venture out of 9 to 5, right? So it was a bit difficult making the shift because when you're working for somebody and when you become like the leader, right? Where you have to the vision now ties to you and even your entire life actually now ties to that particular thing. You have to make that conscious shift from that mindset to a new mindset. So we've been doing OPay for 2 years and a half. Yes, we've been doing OPay for 2 years and a half here now, and so far so good, right? So the whole idea is to help businesses manage their payroll, their entire HR operations, and also help them make payments. So that's what we are building. We didn't want to. We are not boxed into the entire fintech thing, right? Where we give you cards, we just help you make payments, payment link. So there are lots of companies that already do that. But what we basically do is help companies, especially in Nigeria for now. We are planning to launch in other African countries soon. We help businesses in Nigeria run their payroll, make the payments, make their statutory compliance payments. Then also in terms of HR, recruitment, exit management, performance management, everything basically. So that's what we do. That's my backstory. I don't like to talk about it. Like I said, I'm a jack of all trades. I can do everything in business.
I get that energy from you. Like you can't sit down one place and just do one thing. So let me ask you before this, because I understand that you are founder of a fintech. I mean of a tech company now. However, I want this conversation. I envision for this conversation to be more than that. So can you like take us before the accounting thing started, like at a jack of all trade, like what influenced your decision to go into accounting? And were you always that were you always that like always wanting to do something at a young age? Is that something that came natural to you or you picked up over the years?
Interestingly, when I was in high school, that's secondary school, I was actually good at so many things, right? Most of my friends still today still feel that maybe I should have been a physicist or something, or a chemist or something like that. But well, I actually chose accounting, right? Because I love numbers generally. I love numbers. I love maths. I love maths a lot, right? Even complex maths, even the one that transcends into physics. because I like the idea of, because maths is kind of, how do I put it? It's kind of defined, right? If you are going from point A to point B, you are going from point A to point B, right? It's not like okay, I don't want to call anybody's course now, right? But maths is maths, right? So early on, I started accounting very early on while I was in secondary school. And when I was doing accounting, I actually fell in love with it. I love the idea of making sense of business numbers, right? Making sense of business numbers and helping businesses understand their own numbers generally, right? So when I finished, I wrote the WAEC, I filled in for accounting, got into school, studied accounting. I still love accounting kind of, although like I said, I'm a jack of all trades. I like to do so many things. I've done accounting for a while. While doing accounting, I've actually also transcended into web development, that software development, right? Like I mentioned, I'm a full stack developer. So accounting started the journey for me, but I'm now using accounting to do so many other things with tech. So it's not like moving away totally from accounting. It's now using accounting in the technology way. Instead of just doing a lot of papers, I now bring technology into it, which is where the whole payroll thing comes. It's under taxation, basically.
Yeah. Okay. I can relate to you on the math tip. I'm actually I love math as well. That was my favorite subject in high school. And it's because, like you said, it's defined. You 1 + 1 is always 2 any time of the whole. You can't explain it.
It may change. Quantum computing is coming, but it may change. But then 1 + 1 is still, right now 1 + 1 is 2.
Yeah, true. Okay.
In JavaScript, 1 + 1 is not always 2. 1 + 1 is 11 in JavaScript.
Very true. So let me ask, what influenced you to like develop this love for math? Was there like an authority figure in your life that steered you in that direction? It's just something you
Okay, I think I would attribute it to the school I attended for when I was in junior secondary school, right? We had a crazy principal. Crazy, yes, I call him crazy, right? So while I was in the GSS 1, 2, and 3, right? So while I was in GSS 1, 2, and 3, we were doing things like physics. In GSS 1, normally you don't do that here. We're doing things like physics, chemistry.
What please? What school?
I don't think the school is no longer in existence.
Oh yeah, okay.
It's a weird school. So we're doing things like, it actually helped. We're doing things like further math, accounting, physics, chemistry, when we were not supposed to be doing them, right? So it kind of exposed my mind to a lot of the advanced concepts early. And I think I've always had a flair for numbers, right? I used to love quantitative reasoning when I was in primary school, right? So where you just look at a bunch of numbers and just try to figure out the connection between them, right? So while we're doing that, then I got to senior school. Then I met one teacher rather. I met one teacher. He used to teach further maths. I wasn't required to do further maths, but because of my love for maths, I still did further maths, right? So I cannot forget his name. His name is Mr. Peter. I can remember his name. His name is Mr. Peter. So he used to get us to school early enough so that he would teach us some of the things in further maths. So that kind of exposed my mind to things like calculus that normally I wouldn't have done. Things like calculus, advanced calculus, and all that. So when I did that, I was just like, okay, my number skills actually improved, even though I loved it right from the get-go, kind of. So that's my story basically in terms of numbers.
Okay. So
and also my transition into software development.
Okay, so your major influences on that, like for this journey that you're on, were your teachers, Mr. Peter and the principal.
The crazy principal.
The crazy principal.
We used to call him Jacobian then. I remember. The guy was quite good with maths, but he was crazy.
Jacobian?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Can you share any, like, so it's just listening to you, it seems like you've had like a interesting yet smooth sailing story on this, path to loving math, but I'm sure it came with some challenges. So can you share like any pivotal challenges that you had or significant challenges that you faced, and how did you like overcome them?
Okay. the major challenge I faced was when I was in the university, right? The way our education is structured here in Nigeria. You have to lecturers, bad lecturers, good lecturers. I had some good ones, I had some bad ones, and
Strike.
of course, we had one 6 months, one very long 6 months. So we had the strike, but although the strike didn't affect us as much, right? Because we left school when we were supposed to, kind of anyway. So good lecturers, bad lecturers, some of them would just demoralize you. Like they'll make you question why you want to do what you say you want to do. Why don't I just go and start doing something else, right, with my life instead of this? But all in all, it was, well, my journey has actually been, well, all glory to God anyway. My journey has actually been quite smooth. But after school, I did a bit of, the tutorial thing now, where you get a bunch of students and teach them just so that they can. I did that. I think I did that for about 3 years before I got my first job. Moved to Lagos from Port Harcourt, then got my first job. So it was kind of smooth sailing, I would say.
Okay. So the I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but the idea of this African Mavericks platform is to promote independent thinking, right, and purposeful living amongst young Africans. So in that line, what would you say independent thinking means to you, and how do you apply it to your personal and professional life?
Okay. So basically, the whole idea of independent thinking is you thinking for from the word independence, of course. You basically thinking for yourself, right? One of the things that I appreciate in my journey so far is that every single decision that I have made on the journey has kind of like been me making those decisions, not because somebody else wants me to make those decisions, right?
Okay.
So, for example, you see someone wanting to do accounting, and the person switches to something else because he feels that, okay, other people are doing it. This is where the money is at. I've never really done anything because this is where the money is at, right? I've never really done anything that way. I didn't study accounting because I felt I was going to make a lot of money from accounting, even though I knew that I was going to make it. There's money in accounting, of course, and there's money in tech, but that wasn't the motivation, right? Independent thinking allows you to have the right motivation, right? The right motivation to do things. Okay, I've seen people come to me and say, okay, I want to learn Python, I want to learn JavaScript, I want to learn to code. And you ask them, why do you want to learn to code? Because that question is very critical. Why do you want to learn the code? And they're like, I have a friend and the guy is currently earning $5,000 in every month in coding. Is that the motivation? You will never get it right. That's the beautiful thing. That's the interesting thing. You will never get it right. Money is a good motivation, of course, sometimes, right? I'm not going to dispute that fact. But you need to find, okay, if money is going to motivate me, I need to find a way to also still motivate myself. Weirdly, I'm going to say this. I'm one of those people that I do not believe in passion.
You don't believe in passion?
Yes, let me explain. I have things I love doing. I have things I love doing. I have things I love doing. Well, people will call them passionate about. But I always believe that I read a book one time, right? Robert Greene, Mastery. Right? Now, what I picked from Mastery is that what we call passion is just something you see and you like, or maybe you love. You see it and you love it. You are not born with a passion. You cannot be born today and say your passion is singing. Probably you have a lot of people around you that sing, and you now feel like, okay, I actually love singing. Then you dedicate your entire life towards pushing to be a musician, right? So when I started off, I would say my passion was accounting, kind of. My passion was accounting, which meant that I studied it in the university. Then along the line, I met a couple of people, neighbors actually. They were in electrical electronics engineering. They introduced me to C#. That was my first language. They introduced me to C#, and I was on C# for a number of years before I decided to start coding. Now I found it because what people will call passion, in my own case, what you will call passion is actually my love for numbers. My love for numbers, which means anything I want to do has to generally circle around numbers.
Okay.
Has to circle around numbers, which means that software development, data science and machine learning, accounting, right? Financial modeling. Everything circles around number, right? I don't have something that I will say, if I don't do this particular thing, I will die. I don't know if you get the logic. It's not like you don't have something you love to do, but there's nothing in my life right now that will say, if I do not do this thing today, I am going to die. No, absolutely not. Tomorrow I may decide that, okay, I don't want to do software development anymore. I do a bit of data science. I can decide, okay, I want to shift totally to data science and machine learning because there's statistics there and there's a lot of numbers moving around there, right? So your passion is, okay, let's take Elon Musk, for example. I'm just going to give an example. I have to give that guy as an example. He's a crazy dude. I love Elon Musk. I love the way he thinks. Now, Elon Musk, for example, will you tell me that SpaceX is a passion for Elon Musk? Absolutely not. Tesla is not a passion for Elon Musk. Elon Musk actually was part of people that started PayPal. You can't say financial management or payments is a passion for Elon Musk. But he may have other things that he loves to do. For example, Elon Musk loves to solve problems. Problem solving could be a passion. I love to solve people's problems, right? And he loves physics. He loves physics. So he's doing so many things that are not necessarily his passion, but they are tied to one of the skills, which a lot of people say is passion anyway. One of the skills that he has. Somebody knows how to weld, and he's insisting he must sing. Why? Because he sees the video driving the S-Class Maybach. So that is my own thoughts generally, right? Elon Musk even said, if you have a passion, make enough money and follow your passion. Passion sometimes could be like a side also. Somebody could even say software development is his passion and he's good at it. Fine. Right? But I don't, the whole concept of passion, I have passion for this, I have passion for that, it's not for me. Don't worry,
no, that's actually an interesting, because that was the next question I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you what's an opinion you have that seems to be controversial. But let me now twist it and ask, what's an opinion you have about something that people tend to overlook? You know, you feel that this is a truth about life and people just tend to overlook it.
I think I just answered that question.
Yeah.
The whole concept of passion.
Okay. That's true.
Your concept of passion, where you are just fixated on one thing and one thing alone. You have other things that are going for you. You neglect them to focus on that one thing. When you should focus on those other things to provide enough money to work for you to fuel that one thing.
Okay, spoken like a true jack of all trades. Okay, let's talk about how you've applied some independent thinking to your personal life. Maybe that it's in solving a problem that you had, or a personal problem or a professional problem. Can you speak on that? Okay,
so I think one of the major ones is in my like I said, I do more of software development now than accounting, right? So was in my shift from core accounting, right? Like I said, I was CFO, right? Imagine leaving a CFO job and just switching to start a startup, right? It's not, running a startup is not easy, right? Chasing customers, getting your first 2,000 customers, your first 1,000 customers is not a walk in the park, right? So I think one of the places I've applied independent thinking is actually in my transition from my accounting profession to software engineering.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So normally I should have gone for more certification in accounting and maybe do a master's or a PhD in accounting. But I just thought that, okay, I love numbers, right? In the near future, most of the things I do in accounting will most likely be handled by AI. It will not take accountants out of the job, not necessarily, right? Because there are some things that AI may not be able to solve for businesses, mostly in the areas of consulting and advising, right? But there are some routine tasks that AI and technology can solve. So why don't I be the person that builds those technologies for my fellow accountants to use?
Okay.
So that's the whole idea, where I'm the one that is supplying them with the right technology to help them become more efficient at their job. And it's easier for me to build for them because I am a part of them.
True.
So
This is kind of. Go ahead.
The domain knowledge is there.
Yeah. And you definitely know the where it hurts, so you can address those problems. Yeah. Okay. I would like you to speak more on just this is that kind of like a digression, but because you mentioned it, what are your thoughts on AI and
well, like I told you before, I'm a data scientist also, right?
Yeah.
I'm a data scientist. So my first big project was actually using some of the AI tools, right? Like mostly in in Python, right? Pandas, NumPy, Scikit, and the like, Tensor, right? So I think the next 5 years will be interesting. I always like to use the word interesting. The next 5 years will be interesting. It's like it took the time frame between technology change is actually cutting down by so much, right? Between the 1990s and the 2000s, we saw some change. But between 2000 and 2010, we saw more change than the decade before. Between 2010 and 2020, we saw more change than the decade before, right? I think this before the year 2030, AI will take over a lot of things, including a lot of jobs, and it will open up a lot more jobs. It will open up a lot because people have to train. It has to be, except they build an AI that can train the AI.
Right.
Of course, yeah. They build an AI that can write a model for the AI itself, but they won't want to do that because of ethics, right? Because if the AI is building its own model and deciding what it's going to do, then we can no longer control it. So humans still have to build the models and train those models to work. So the next 5 years will be interesting. One thing I've noticed in 2023, we went further in AI in 2023 alone than we did in the last 5 to 6 years.
Okay.
Yes, if you look at it, we went further in AI in 2023 than we did in the last 5 years. I think it's this year that OpenAI launched ChatGPT.
Yeah.
That's ChatGPT was this year. We've seen a lot of language learning models come up this year. We've seen a lot of generic AI models come up this year. I'm just anticipating what 2024, 2025, 2026 Human is releasing an AI pin that you can communicate with. So the next 5-6 years, a lot of jobs will be made available, and a lot of jobs will be made obsolete.
Yeah.
A lot of jobs. So it's just for us to prepare for this time. Basically, prepare for this time, so that we know which skills are going to be required. Like that, remember passion. If your passion is building websites, and the world is moving towards software, data science, and machine learning, you just have to move with it. You have to move. Basically.
But be independent-minded about the moves you make, right?
Yeah, you have to be, but while you are moving, you have to be conscious about the decisions that you are making. Basically, you have to be conscious about it. That's where independent thinking comes in.
Yeah,
that's where independent thinking comes in. Let it not be that you are moving because everybody around you is moving. Move strategically. Okay, I want to move from software development to data science. So how do I blend it? How do I make it make sense for me? Independent, okay, my people used to make one adage. They used to say "Onokon Waja." Do you know what it means?
No, please.
Now, okay, I don't want to speak in proverbs. Now, when you see a marketplace, right? I have never seen a marketplace that has only one entry point.
That's deep. That's deep.
Yeah, I never seen a marketplace that has only one entry point. Every single marketplace has multiple entry points. Let's even use the shopping mall. A shopping mall does not have only one entry. It could have multiple entries because they're always very large. So wherever you find yourself, you can always go out, especially even in times of danger. So whatever your destination is, there are so many ways you can get there. There are so many ways you can get there. All those doors lead to the same place, and then also lead out of the same place. So that's my thoughts.
I'm writing that one down. That was a quotable, right? You seem like someone to me that's very opinionated. Like you hold strong opinions on certain things, which I don't think I actually think it's a commendable trait. But let me ask you, how was your perspective on something that you held so strongly on changed over time? Like you believe this thing to be true, but over time with experience, you started.
Now, one of the beautiful things that I have learned over the years is to learn and unlearn. Now, especially in today's world, right? You have to. The things I knew in 2012 no longer hold water now. Most of them. Which means if I had an opinion in 2012, that's why most times when, especially in the US, right, where you have celebrities, they go to 2012 and dig up one of their Twitter posts. You know, the internet does not forget. I think they did the same thing to Kevin Hart. So they dig up one of your Twitter posts in 2012 and bring it to 2023. Now, I believe that the same man that wrote that tweet in 2012 is not the same man in 2023.
Sure.
Yes, because we are supposed to go wise over time, not necessarily, but we are supposed to, right? So there are some things I would do in 2015, 2016, that in 2023, the world has made me realize that, guy, you were wrong. Yeah. So I have tried as much as possible not to be fixed minded, where I'm fixated on only one opinion. I'm opinionated, right? There are things I see and I say, okay, this is the way it is. Right. And but over time, you see that things are changing, and you see that, okay, that my opinion did not really make sense. This is what it is actually. Then I take that and I move on with it, to be honest with you. I don't like to be fixated on a particular, like I said, learn and unlearn.
Okay. Yeah. Share with us something that you've unlearned, maybe in the recent past.
Can I figure out one? There are some things, yeah. You know, before you get married, right? Before you get married, there are some thoughts you have about marriage. There are some thoughts you have about marriage that when I get married, my wife, no, she cannot do this. No, she will not do that, or this one. But when you get married, the reality sets on. You have to unlearn those nonsense. Then you come back to the reality of the matter. So I'm just giving a generic example, right? So even the way I used to learn has actually kind of changed. I had to unlearn the way I was learning. I had to unlearn the way I was learning. The way I learned in 10 years ago is different from the way I'm learning now. That's also another one.
Okay. I won't pry much on the marriage part, because I know you've unlearned. I've unlearned
and I've learned new ones.
Yeah. So let me ask about when it comes to, I want to hear your thoughts on purpose, because you dropped a bomber with the passion statement. What's your take on purpose? Like, what does it mean to live purposefully?
Live purposefully. Well, I don't think that is connected to passion. I think they are two different things, right? Purpose and passion. You know, I still have this adage that says nothing is written in stone. Nothing is written in stone. For example, you say your purpose in life. When did you figure it out that is your purpose? My purpose in life is to be a singer, or my purpose in life is to. If you say your purpose in life is to help people, then it's more or less like a decision that you have made, not necessarily a purpose. Yes, you can, instead of using the word purpose, you can say my decision in life is to help people. It's a decision. So purpose simply means, for example, there's moral standing in everything that we do, right? There's moral standing. You go to whatever thing you do in this life, there is a moral backing. There should be a moral. There's societally accepted morals, whether we like it or not, right? So long as what you're doing does not conflict with I used to call it universal, right? By universal, I don't mean the ones that are on the fence, because by universal, there are some that are on the fence that we don't want to dabble into, right? For example, being a good person, giving. That should be everybody's purpose. And I said on Okon Waja, one road does not lead to the market. Whichever way you get to do it, so long as you are doing it right and you are not breaking you are not doing it wrong, fine. So your purpose is just, most times when people say purpose driven, like my purpose is this, when did you figure it out? My purpose in life is to save humanity. Did you bring that from you are not Jesus Christ? I think Jesus was the only one that has a purpose. I think, well, I don't know, I can't say. Jesus was the only one that had the purpose written in stone from the day he was born.
That's interesting thought. That's an interesting thought. I want to share something.
I'm a weird guy, don't mind me.
Yeah, we're all weird together, man. So that I actually want to share something that you mentioned, and you just mentioned it about like giving, like it's morally accepted to give, and that's actually a perspective of mine that is changing, because I read recently in the Bible that it's how we're given different gifts. There's the scripture that talks about giving different gifts, and we should use those gifts, right? Apparently, being generous is a gift. So that means that made me realize
7 gifts of the Spirit.
Yeah.
7 gifts of, is it the 8 or the 7 gifts of the Spirit?
Yeah, but that's different. There's that one is in Isaiah, but in when Jesus was talking about like the fruits, by their fruits you shall know them and stuff like that, he was talking about like different gifts that people are giving, and he said there's a part that says to be generous is a gift, and it made me think that there are actually some people in this world that don't have the gift to be generous.
Yes.
So to expect that from them is a lost cause, because I used to have this perspective that it's an innate,
no, giving is not an innate thing. For people that give, they feel that it should be normal. It should be, not it is.
True. Okay.
We feel that it should be normal to give, right?
Yeah.
But for people that don't, it is actually the opposite. Their mind is thinking, why should I give? Which is different from your own perspective of the whole thing.
Yeah.
They are thinking, why should I do it? There's nothing that says I must give it. So that's where it's general, basically.
Yeah, true. Okay, let's shift into some so let's talk about role play, and I feel like the bigger perspective or larger perspective of what you're trying to do with that. Like, how would you say role play, or what you're trying to do right now, or the different things you're dabbling into, how would you say that's playing into the larger narrative?
Okay, so the whole idea for us, right, is to build, like, there's always a big picture, right? There's always a big picture. The big picture for us is to provide businesses with enough tools, right? Truth is, we don't have to build all of them. The technology is now so advanced that you can just take somebody's API, put on your website, and it's working. Right? You take somebody else's technology, put on your website, it's working. So that's the whole idea for us generally. We are building something so it's actually, the big picture for Hope is so big. It's so big. this is just like an entry point. HR and payroll are just entry points for us. There are so many things we dabble into. There's accounting for business. Like I said, I'm an accountant. There's accounting. There are so many things, that small tools that businesses need, that are all over the place, right? So OPay will be like the platform that aggregates everything for these businesses. You just come on OPay and you're able to get this, and this done instantly without having to leave the same platform. So that's the whole idea for it. And we don't have to build everything. We cannot even build everything. Google has not built everything.
That means there's some acquisitions and partnerships in your future.
Exactly. Acquisitions and you have said it all. Acquisitions and partnerships. You partner with so many businesses, and you guys get to do so many things together. They make money, you make money, your customers are happy.
I love that. So what would you give, what advice would you give to, like, a younger generation of people that are finding it hard to find their purpose or think independently in this world, in this conformist environment? Like, what advice would you give?
So I'll talk about one of the big problems first, then before I talk about advising them on what to do. Now, one of the big problems is that information sometimes can be a two-edged sword. Information sometimes can be a two-edged sword. Now, with information, you have access to everything. The internet allows you to, if you Google anything, you can learn you can become a full stack developer from YouTube. Just from YouTube, without paying a dime to anybody. You can become a full stack developer just from YouTube. Now, there's also the seeing the destination before you start. I'll give you an example. Somebody goes on Instagram and sees a Tony Elumelu in a private jet, or sees a Dangote maybe driving a Rolls Royce. I don't know what car that man drives. It's very frugal. So, or seeing an Otedola maybe in a Bentley or whatever car he drives. Now, that is the destination, kind of, in a sense. Now, a lot of kids see that destination and want to achieve that destination in 1 year. That's why we have a lot of people in internet fraud. Now, you see a destination of 30 years. You want to achieve it in 1 year. It's important to be patient. And while you are being patient, you are growing. Because if you are patient and you don't grow, you remain there. You can be patient for 50 years and you don't grow. You remain where you are being patient. You still be patient for another 50 years, basically. So while you are being patient, you are learning, you are growing. So that when the time comes, when the opportunity, I used to have one saying that I used to put on my wall when I was in school. I said, when I forgot to know, when opportunity, when talent or skill meets opportunity, success is born. The opportunity would eventually come. And there's also the grace of God, of course, because a lot of people call it luck, but it's the grace of God, right? There's also the grace of God that is full. If you have the right talent and the opportunity comes, you'll be prepared for that opportunity. Then you become successful. But a lot of people don't want to. So my advice to the younger people is that there's a lot of distraction on the internet. Right now, there's a ton of distraction. Everything around us is distraction. Every single thing around us is distraction. You see 15-year-olds driving Benz without a source of income. You see people doing so many things. It can deviate a person from what they want to do with their life. So my advice with them is to learn and grow. Basically.
Learn and grow and be patient while they're doing that. Thank you for that. I think that will resonate with a few people that listen to this, or the people that listen to this. Let me ask, you mentioned some notable people, Tedola, Dangote, and the rest. If you could, it doesn't have to be any of them, but if you could spend 1 hour with an African, notable African, maybe dead or alive, who would you want to spend that hour with?
1 hour. I would spend it with Dangote. Yes, I want to sit down with Dangote, and actually, I have two people actually, Dangote or Tedola. Because Otedola is a man that got to the top, almost lost everything, built back up, right? Dangote kind of finds his way around situations.
Okay.
He always finds his way around situations, right? You don't know where he's politically affiliated to, basically. You don't know if he's an APC man or a PDP man or whatever. The way we play politics here, you never know, right? So I want to understand his rationale behind how he expands, how he thinks about business, because Dangote is a core businessman. He's a core businessman.
Okay. That's interesting. For someone who loves numbers, you want to understand the business aspect of it.
I think Otedola is a numbers man. I think so.
Okay. Let me ask you some like out of their questions, and you don't have to think too deeply about it. They could come up as philosophical, but it's not something you think too deeply about. The first question is, if you could describe your journey in a color, the color of your journey to somebody that cannot see, how would you do that?
Sky blue.
The person can't see, so how would you describe it to the person?
The color of my it's okay. Oh, I didn't get that part. Sorry.
If you can describe the color of your journey to somebody that cannot see, how would you describe it?
Okay, I would have to use gradients, because how do I put it? Someone that cannot see, because the person has not seen color before, so I can't use blue, red, or yellow. I can just use brightness or darkness, basically. So I can say it started off with flickers of light, small flickers of light. They were at a distance, right? And every single step of the way, I keep moving towards that light, and the light starts expanding and becoming bigger. I am not at that light yet, but I am getting to that light.
Okay, interesting. I like that. You said you should be a poet?
I should be a poet, man.
Maybe that's another thing you could dabble into. Who knows?
I will think about it.
If you could describe your life with a fruit or a song, or both, which would you pick and why?
With a fruit or a song, or both. But by fruit, are we talking about the tree itself, or the fruit, just the fruit?
Whichever one. If you want to use the tree of the tree, tell me why.
Because my journey has not ended. It's still an ongoing journey. It's still an ongoing journey, and it will continue for a while. So, I think I will use a song. I think I'll use a song. Yes.
What song and why?
The first song that actually came to my head is not the song I would have used, but is it something Graham that sang 7 years? 7 years, the song. Once I was 7 years old, my story's been told, something like that. That song. Yeah. Okay. I like the concept of that song.
Okay.
Because it talks about life's journey.
Okay. So that light that you're walking towards is getting brighter.
That light that's getting brighter. My story's being told, so something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So as a poet now, you want to write a book about your journey, right? What would you title this chapter?
Learning.
And what would the name of the book be called?
I'll call it My Journey.
My Journey. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe I should get a biograph or something. Somebody to write it for.
Yeah. very soon.
Maybe next year. I don't even need somebody. I'll just tell you my journey. Give the person on my social media account and give the AI my social media account and it just creates a story for me.
Exactly. It's crazy. It's crazy what you can do with AI, but that's a digression. So last question about your life journey and stuff. So if your life was a vehicle, what vehicle are you traveling in, and what does that say about your approach to life? The vehicle could be anything. It doesn't have to be a car. Anything.
Currently, well, which vehicle? That's a deep question. Very deep question. I think I'm moving in a fast train. Not bullet train, but fast train. Not as fast as a bullet train, but a fast train.
Why a train?
Now, the beautiful thing about I would have said airplane, but I've not gotten to that point. But maybe I'll stop at the station and get to the airport eventually. But I'm still in a train. Now, the beautiful thing about going on train is that most times the only stops you have are at your station, at the station, where you either pick up stuff or you continue going.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's deep. That's deep. I don't think you need to say much about that unless you want to. But I picked up what you're putting down. Okay, so another question I want to ask you is, if you had unlimited resources, like you had unlimited resources to solve one of Africa's problem, which problem would you solve, and how would you go about it?
There are actually two.
There are two? Okay, please tell me both of them. I'd like to hear.
I think the problems, some of our, especially in this Nigeria, two of our core problems are ethnicity and religion. I think the day the world will have peace is when we stop calling ourselves infidel.
Okay. Speak more on that.
Yes. Speak more. If you check most of the world's conflict, it's circled around either ethnicity or religion.
Yeah.
Most of the world's Israel and Gaza, Muslim against Christian. No, there's no I want to sugarcoat it. Russia and Ukraine, ethnicity. Russia wants to join NATO. Ukraine doesn't want that. Blah 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 blah. It's tied around something. So if I'm going to take two things out, I will take away ethnicity, then I'll take away religion. Totally.
That's deep.
That means I would have a lot of peace.
That's deep, and I actually agree with you on that too. Because yeah, that's maybe conversation for another day. But really, that religion is an issue that's we need to take out of the equation completely.
Most of the conflicts we have is tied around religion, basically. Most of
the from my understanding of just reading the Bible without any religious
external interference. Exactly. It's very important. I'm a Christian, right? I always like to read the Bible without external interference because as people we have a lot of voices in our head. There's a voice of culture. There's a voice of family. There's a voice of community. There's a voice of bad news. War all over the world. Muslims blew up a church. You just naturally start hating for no good reason. So sometimes it's just good to silence that noise in the head and just focus on the word of God. And once you focus on the word of God, you discover that most of the time, maybe in the Old Testament, it was slash and kill, right? They messed up, let's kill them. Then when Jesus, he changed the narrative. He started telling us that, okay, love. But he said, while you are love, you open your eyes. He did not just say love. So he says love. So most times, I believe I've not read the Quran anyway. I believe even the Quran preaches almost the same thing. But a lot of the top people misinterpret a lot of those things and let you fight battles that are unnecessary, just so that they can sell guns, basically.
So yeah, I agree with you on that tip. And even just on speaking about Jesus's message, you see that he actually was against religion, like he was against religious leaders and
organized religion.
Yeah. So I agree with that. So the slogan for African Mavericks is bet on your truth.
Bet on what?
Bet on your truth.
Okay, bet on your truth. Okay.
Yeah. When you hear that, like what comes to mind? And how would you explain that? Put
your money where your mouth is, right? If you believe something, do everything to. If you truly believe in something, right? Don't just say I believe in something and do something else, right? If you truly believe in something, go towards what you believe. Basically, that's my thought around it.
Okay. I want to ask, like, can you share a time when betting on your truth felt more like a gamble, but then turned out to be a sure thing?
I think it was when I was leaving my previous job. It was a difficult time because, living 9 to 5 where you are paid regularly for something you're not even sure of that could shut down in 6 months or even 3 months, right? So, but I think my journey towards in startups or entrepreneurship has been kind of productive. Because I've met a lot of people that normally I wouldn't have met. I've gone places that normally I wouldn't have gone to for the purpose of the business, of course. And now if I'm going to start, let's say I want to start a new business, it's easier for me because I've learned a lot of things. I've done a lot of things for this particular business too. So that's basically me betting on my, that's what I want to do, and I follow through with it. Kind of.
Yeah. Okay. Can you share some? Because I'm from a personal standpoint, I'm curious to learn, like, what are some valuable lessons that you've picked up in this transition from going from 9 to 5 into, like, what are some significant lessons or insights you've learned?
Nobody will tell you what to do. That's the first one. You have to figure out what to do, and you have to be the one that tells yourself and everybody else what to do, right? If the vision is on your shoulder, you have to be the one to decide what next. You have to decide what. It's not an easy transition. It's not an easy transition at all, because it will take a bit of time for you to realize that, oh, this ball is now in my court and I need to either kick it or keep it. So that's basically it.
Okay. Body will tell you what to do. That's deep. So the last two questions I have, actually, one is going to come from you. What I like to do is I like for you to ask me a question that you want me to ask the next guest.
If the person, okay, the question is a two-way question. Now, if the person currently works for an organization, maybe is a staff of a company, ask them what it would take for them to leave their current employment and start a company of their own. Or if they are in entrepreneurship, ask them what it would take for them to stop entrepreneurship and go back to 9 to 5.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Okay, I think I got that down. I'll write it. So the last question came from Gladys Manuelke. She's actually running a startup in Lagos. It's called Base. Basically, it's like a Uber marketplace for co-working spaces, where you can find co-working spaces. Yeah. And yeah, so her question was, it's kind of a personal question, but she was like, if you had to live between your parents or your grandparents, who would you pick and why?
My parents, especially my mother.
Parents.
My mother.
Your mother. Why?
If I had to pick between my parents and my grandparents, right?
Yeah.
That question.
Yeah.
I'll pick my parents, of course, my mother. My mother worked worked tirelessly to get me the education that I have. So, and my father's parents died before I was born, so I don't know them. My mom's mom were close, but not as close as me and my mother. So definitely, I will always pick my parents.
Your parents, okay.
My mother, especially not my dad, my mother.
Your mother, particularly, okay. Is there any question that you would have wanted me to ask you that I didn't ask you?
No, I think you were actually quite. I see, I'm sweating. I think you were quite. I think you were quite. The questions were quite robust, right? And they covered almost every area of my life. I think most of the things I've spoken about today, I've not talked about them in a very long time.
Yeah,
I've not talked about them in a very long time. I think I should start writing my book. You've motivated me.
I'm glad to hear that. I can see you're really sweating. So you were thinking deeply about it.
I will start writing my book. My journey. It has not ended. It has only just begun. So, but let me just write to the part it starts. I think the preface will be
ready. My journey. I'll love to read that book when it comes out. Because I think
I'll send a copy to you.
Thank you. Ade, you've been an amazing, person to have a conversation with.
There you have it, guys. We've come to the end of this episode. I hope you're able to you got some valuable lessons from the conversation. Lessons that you can apply to your everyday life. If so, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button or share with a friend. If the spirit also leads you, feel free to drop a comment, like the video, do all that, because I'm truly grateful and appreciative of your support and help. So yeah, until the next episode, I wish you more life, more blessings.